In the high-stakes world of AI, you've got your giants and you've got your challengers. Today, we're going to talk about one of the biggest challengers out there, AMD, and its absolutely massive gamble on AI. So, is it on the path to becoming a champion, or is it about to get left in the dust? All right, let's get into it. So, this whole story really kicks off with a piece of news that honestly sent some serious shockwaves through the entire market. It all spins around a report about a potential team-up between two of the absolute biggest names in tech. And this is the question at the heart of it all, right? What if Meta, a company that buys an insane amount of AI chips, just decided to get them from Google instead of the usual players? I mean, a single move like that? It could completely reshape the whole competitive landscape. Okay, so let's really break down what went down here. The report, which came from the information, basically said that Meta Platforms was talking about buying custom AI chips straight from Google. And look, this wasn't just some minor rumor. It had immediate, real-world consequences. Now, the tech at the very heart of all this is something called Google's TPU, which stands for Tensor Processing Unit. The easiest way to think about these things is they're hyper-specialized. A regular processor, it's kind of like a jack of all trades. But a TPU, it's a grandmaster at just one thing, powering artificial intelligence. And believe me, the second this news dropped, investors reacted. I mean, instantly. AMD's stock plunged a pretty significant 7%. Now, why the panic? Well, it's because Meta is a really key emerging partner for AMD's big AI plans. And this news, it introduces a major new threat. But to really get why this is such a huge deal for AMD, we gotta rewind the clock a bit. Look, this is not the same company it was 10 years ago. Not even close. AMD has pulled off one of the most incredible turnarounds in the history of tech. So, under their CEO, Lisa Su, AMD went from being, well, an also-ran to a genuine, serious threat. They did this by partnering up with the manufacturing beast TSMC, and with them, they just leapfrogged their rival Intel's production. They snatched up huge market share, and now they're setting themselves up to be the critical #2 supplier in this new AI chip gold rush. So you can see the company is really fighting on a bunch of different fronts. They're in our PCs, right? They power the massive data centers. And yeah, they're the heart and soul of the PlayStation and the Xbox. But the new frontier, the one with the truly explosive growth, is artificial intelligence. That's the battleground where the future of this company is really going to be decided. And that brings us right to the main event, the great AI chip race. We're talking about a colossal fight for who gets to dominate this market. And there are really three key players that everyone, and I mean everyone, is watching. Okay, now what's so fascinating about this table here is the contrast. Just look at the market cap. Nvidia is an absolute behemoth, right? It's more than 10 times the size of AMD. And yet, Morningstar's analysts actually see a higher fair value for AMD's stock. They also give AMD what they call a narrow economic moat, while Intel gets none, which really shows you who they think has a stronger competitive position right now. So the takeaway here is this really divided view on the company. The bulls, they believe the AI market is just so ridiculously massive that there's plenty of room for AMD to win big. And they point to how AMD already proved it can steal market share from Intel. But the bears, they point to NVIDIA's giant software advantage with its CUDA platform. You got to think of CUDA as like the operating system for AI. Developers have been building on it for more than a decade, and that creates this powerful lock-in that's incredibly tough for a challenger to break. Which brings us to a really key concept in this whole analysis, the economic moat. What is it exactly that gives AMD its fighting chance to defend its profits in what is, let's be honest, a brutal market? Yeah, an economic moat is pretty much just what it sounds like. It's a defensive advantage. It's the thing that protects a company's profits from getting eaten away by all the competition. The wider the moat, right, the safer the castle. And Morningstar rates AMD's moat as narrow. That means they've got some defenses, but they're not exactly impenetrable. So where are these defenses actually coming from? Well, first, you've got intangible assets. We're talking decades of chip design expertise. Second, and this is huge, they are one of only 2 companies that has a license for the x86 architecture. That's the fundamental language that powers most of the world's PCs and servers. You add in their growing AI know-how and the fact that it's a real pain for customers to switch platforms, and boom, you've got the foundation of their moat.
All right, so how does all of this stuff actually translate to the bottom line? With all these strengths and all these risks on the table, what do the analysts think AMD is actually worth?
The big number here is $270. That's Morningstar's fair value estimate. And let me tell you, that is an ambitious target. It prices in a massive amount of future growth. And almost all of that is being driven by AI. And you can see it on this chart. As of late November, the stock was trading well below that fair value line. So even with the recent bad news and all the risks we've talked about, this analysis suggests there's still a potential upside from where it's trading right now.
So how in the world do they get to that $270 number? Well, with some pretty staggering growth expectations. We are talking about a projected 31% compound annual growth rate for the company's revenue every year for the next 5 years. I mean, that is just an explosive trajectory.
And here's exactly where that growth is supposed to come from. The analysts are projecting that AMD's AI revenue could hit $56 billion in a single year by 2029. That's up from basically zero just a couple years ago. The scale of this AI bet is it's immense. But hey, with that kind of massive opportunity comes massive risk. And the report is super clear about this, giving it an uncertainty rating of very high. And this quote really says it all. The AI field is just moving at warp speed, and the future is anything but certain. So that leaves us right back where we started, with the ultimate question. AMD has fought its way back from the brink, right? It has a solid strategy, and it's aiming at the biggest market in all of tech, but in a race that's moving at warp speed, with giants like Nvidia and new threats popping up from Google. Will this massive gamble actually pay off? Is the challenger finally going to wear the crown?